Disclaimer: this content is intended for a mature audience only. Viewer discretion is advised. There was a hush in the bedroom, only the faintest hum of the air conditioning and the soft breath of two hearts close enough to feel. In that silence, everything shifted. Mel, my voice, my perspective, was still, but inside, electricity made every pulse glow. He whispered across the moonlit sheets, "Let's try something new." That moment was quiet but powerful, and the world tilted ever so slightly. I turned to him, tracing the curve of his shoulder with my eyes, feeling both anticipation and tenderness. He is Adam, my husband of 5 years, steady and warm, with laughter lines at the corners of his eyes that speak of shared jokes and late-night whispers. I'm Mel, his wife, grounded, thoughtful, someone who treasures trust and honesty. We're both in our late 20s, experienced in love, but not yet fearless in bedroom truth. The tone is intimate, sincere, romantic realism woven through an everyday marriage. There's no flash or spectacle here, just two people, committed and caring, leaning into something uncertain. I speak softly, mindful of our history, aware of the vulnerability in exploring desire in new ways. A nervous sweetness fills the space, the way the air carries promise on the edge of something unspoken. Emotion is what frames us. The command to try something new feels at once gentle and daring. Seen through my eyes, this is more than a request, it's a question. Can we trust each other beyond comfort? Do I trust myself to let curiosity outweigh fear? The romantic tension builds beneath words we don't say, in breath caught between longing and doubt. He's patient, a grounding presence, but tonight, there's something in his gaze, tentative excitement, hope, maybe a touch of yearning. And me? I sense both surrender and strength stirring inside. I love him, deeply, but this step feels significant. It's not about novelty, it's about evolution. Our vows promised growth, companionship, and deepening intimacy. Yet inviting change in our private world brings a whirlpool of emotion. I soften, heart thudding, ready to say, yes, but hesitant how this new path will reshape who we are, individually and together. Will it deepen our bond or uncover hidden fractures? The vulnerability hums between us. There's longing there, yes, but also a raw question. Can I expose that part of myself I've kept quiet? As the night deepens, I trace the line between comfort and possibility. I imagine what comes next, gentle explorations, breathless moments, a reconnection that may surprise both of us. Yet nothing is certain. I don't know if tonight ends in revelation or retreat. All I know is that the invitation has been extended, and I must decide whether to cross that threshold. And so, here I pause. The tension, romantic, emotional, honest, lingers in the half-lit room. In the hush of vulnerability, he waits. I breathe. And then, what happens next? His hand hovered, not yet touching, but close enough that I felt its warmth on my bare shoulder. That space between us, full of possibility, was louder than anything he could have said. I didn't move right away. I let the silence stretch, not because I didn't want him, but because I was trying to hear myself in it. Adam and I weren't always like this. There was a time when we were effortless, when even the small moments, brushing teeth side by side, folding laundry with music in the background, felt like intimacy. But time, as it does, softened edges and turned passion into patterns. It wasn't bad. It was comfortable. Safe. But lately, I'd caught glimpses in him, this hunger to reconnect in a way that felt awake. He wasn't asking me to be someone I'm not. I knew that. His suggestion, quiet and sincere, came from love, not from lack. And yet, part of me feared what trying something new might unearth. What if I couldn't meet him there? What if I didn't know how? Adam shifted, barely, his breath a gentle reminder that he was still waiting, still here. I turned slightly toward him, letting my fingers find the edge of the sheet between us, grounding myself in something tangible. My voice, when it came, was quiet. "What made you ask tonight?" He didn't rush his answer. "Because I miss being surprised by you," he said, voice low. "Not because I'm unhappy. But because I think there's more of you I haven't met yet." That landed somewhere deep. Not just romantic, it felt reverent. Like he wasn't asking for performance, but presence. It was strange how a request so intimate could also feel like an invitation to be seen more fully. I exhaled slowly, heart tangled in 100 threads, desire, doubt, affection, fear. There was something raw in his honesty, and it asked something raw in return. To trust. To lean in. To explore not just physical closeness, but emotional truth. I hadn't said yes. Not yet. But I didn't pull away either. Not tonight. I stayed quiet for a long time. Not in resistance, but reflection. His words circled inside me like ripples on still water. "There's more of you I haven't met yet." What a beautiful ache that line carried. Because he wasn't wrong. There were parts of me he hadn't seen, not because I was hiding, but because I wasn't sure how to show them. Or if they were even worth seeing. 5 years ago, when Adam and I stood under a string of garden lights and promised forever, I believed love would be enough. And most days, it was. We laughed more than we argued. We knew how to comfort each other through long workdays and quiet disappointments. But passion, the kind that stirs without warning, had softened into routine. And now, here he was, not demanding more, but gently reaching for it. What he didn't know, and what I hadn't dared to share, was that my hesitation wasn't just about discomfort. It was about memory. There had been someone before him. A relationship that started out tender but slowly chipped away at my sense of safety. I learned to keep desire tucked away, like something dangerous. And while Adam had never done anything to make me fear him, never raised a voice or a hand, some part of me still held tight to those old instincts. To be loved by someone like Adam was healing. But healing wasn't the same as unburdening. Now he was asking me to come closer, to unburden, to reveal. "Do you ever feel like we missed something?" I asked suddenly, my voice small but honest. He looked up at me, brows softening. "Missed?" Like, we fell in love so young, so quickly. Maybe we didn't leave space for all the messy parts. For the parts we didn't understand about ourselves yet. He sat up, resting his forearm across his knees. "I think we filled in the blanks with love. That's not nothing." "No," I whispered. "It's everything." But maybe now those blanks are starting to speak. Adam reached for my hand, fingers brushing lightly against mine. "Then let's listen to them together." My throat tightened. The tenderness in his touch was like a memory I hadn't lived yet. Something I longed for but didn't know how to hold. Outside, the wind played with the curtains, casting moving shadows across the bed. Inside, the air felt warmer, heavy with the quiet pull of two people slowly peeling back layers. I could sense the tension building, not loud or demanding, but deep, like a current beneath still water. He hadn't tried to convince me. He didn't need to. It was his patience that made the invitation so powerful. But still, the question loomed, silent and waiting. Could I give him more of me, without losing the fragile parts I'd worked so hard to protect? The silence between us wasn't empty, it was full of everything we hadn't said. My heartbeat had moved into my throat, each breath shallow and deliberate, as if my body knew it was standing on the edge of something important. I looked down at our hands, his thumb tracing mine with an aching kind of patience. I wondered if he knew how much that small gesture meant to me. How rare it felt to be touched without expectation. "I don't know how," I whispered, barely able to meet his eyes. "I don't even know what it would look like, to let go like that." He didn't flinch. "You don't have to know. That's the point of exploring." There it was again, that quiet, steady confidence that made him so dangerous to my walls. Not because he pushed, but because he didn't. He waited. And in the waiting, he made room for my fear to soften into something else. But it wasn't just fear. It was grief too. Grief for the girl I used to be before I learned to tuck desire away like a sharp thing. Grief for the moments I'd pulled away in the past, not because I didn't want him, but because I didn't trust myself to be fully seen. There were nights I'd smiled through closeness, even when I felt miles away. He never knew. Or maybe, he did. And that's why we were here now. He leaned closer, voice low. Tell me what you're afraid I'll see. My chest tightened. That I don't know how to be more than what I've already given you. That maybe you'll ask for something I can't give. And you'll leave quietly, emotionally, before you ever walk out the door. The words hung in the air between us, raw and trembling. Vulnerability cracked open like a quiet thunder. And for a second, neither of us moved. Then, slowly, he reached up, touching my cheek with the back of his fingers, soft, reverent. Mel. I didn't marry what you gave me. I married you. My eyes stung, not from pain, but from the weight of being truly seen. A part of me wanted to fall into his arms right then, to say yes to whatever came next. But another part held back, still protective, still unsure. Desire and hesitation now lived side by side, each breath steeped in longing and restraint. We were closer than ever, and yet still one truth away from breaking completely open. The room held a breathless stillness, as if time itself had paused to make room for what might come next. His hand was still against my cheek, but I gently turned my face away, not to reject him, but to gather myself. My heart was too loud. And in its echo, something surfaced I hadn't expected to remember tonight. There's something else, I said softly, voice trembling not from cold, but from the weight of a truth I'd buried. Adam leaned in, listening, not just with his ears, but with his whole presence. He always had a way of doing that. Of holding space without rushing it. Before you, I began, there was someone I thought I loved. It was reckless, intense, and I let him into parts of me I wasn't ready to share. And when he left, it wasn't just heartbreak. It felt like I'd been robbed of something sacred. I've never told you that. His hand slowly retreated to his lap, not out of withdrawal, but respect. I watched him take that in, not flinch, not shut down. He just breathed. And in that breath, something shifted. I wondered, he said gently. I never pushed, because I figured you'd tell me when you were ready. Tears pooled at the edges of my eyes, not just from pain, but from the relief of finally being heard. It wasn't the act itself that haunted me. It was the loneliness that came after. The feeling that I had given a part of myself away without knowing if I could ever reclaim it. Adam reached for my hand again. Mel, what we're doing now, it's not about performance. Or comparison. Or fixing something. It's about making room for all of you. Even the part that hurts. A lump rose in my throat. I wanted to believe him. And I did. But then, almost cruelly, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was a name I hadn't seen in years. I froze. Adam's eyes moved to the screen, then back to me. Is that him? He asked. I nodded slowly. The past, it seemed, had a timing of its own. Adam's jaw tensed, not in anger, but in bracing. Why now? I don't know, I whispered. But I haven't spoken to him in years. The silence that followed was different this time, charged, uncertain. A new current now moved between us. Not just about the intimacy we were building, but the ghost that had suddenly stepped into the room, uninvited. Adam looked away for a moment, exhaling through his nose. Do you want to talk to him? His question held no accusation. Only quiet vulnerability. I don't know, I said again, tears finally falling. I don't want anything from him. But maybe. I need closure I didn't know I was missing. And there it was. Another door, half open. Another truth between us. The night, which had once promised soft unraveling, now held a new layer of tension, one that could either draw us closer or undo us completely. I sat with the phone in my hand, screen still lit with his name. Not moving. Not answering. Just breathing. Somewhere in the room, time thickened, as if holding its breath for me. Adam hadn't touched me since I confirmed it was him. I could feel the space between us expand like a fragile bridge, still intact, but creaking. I don't want to open the door, I said quietly, setting the phone down, face down, as if burying it for good. But I needed to know what I'd feel when I saw his name again. Adam's voice was almost a whisper. And what did you feel? I turned to him. Nothing for him. But everything for you. Fear that you'd think I hadn't moved on. Fear that this, us, would be shaken by something I'd already left behind. His breath eased, but he was still holding back. You say you've left it behind. But it's still shaping how close you let me come. I didn't argue. He was right. That ghost had lingered longer than I wanted to admit, haunting not because of who he was, but because of what I hadn't let myself heal. Tears burned in my eyes. I'm sorry. Adam finally reached for me, pulling me into his arms, not with hunger, but with the gentleness of someone holding something precious and scarred. Don't be sorry for protecting yourself, he murmured into my hair. But let me in. Not just in bed. In the places you've closed off. I buried my face into his shoulder, breathing him in. I want to. His hands tightened around me. Then start now. I pulled back, just enough to see his face. Okay, I whispered. I will. There was no grand gesture. No sudden, passionate surrender. But there was something more powerful, a stillness, a truth, and the beginning of true closeness. We held each other in the hush of that moment, fully present, fully known. And just as the room began to settle, my phone buzzed again. A second message. But not from the past. It was from my sister. One line, he messaged me too. The chill returned, but not between Adam and me. This twist wasn't about romance. It was about truth. I think he's trying to get back into our lives, I said slowly, showing Adam the screen. His jaw tightened again, but this time, he wrapped his arms around me tighter. Then we face him together. No more ghosts between us. And that was the difference. We weren't just a couple in love. We were a team, at last. The morning came slowly, spilling soft gold across the sheets as if the world itself was exhaling. Outside, the wind had settled. Inside, so had we. Adam was still asleep, one arm loosely around my waist, his chest rising and falling in the steady rhythm of peace. I watched him for a while, tracing the curve of his mouth in my mind, remembering the way he had held me last night, not to claim, not to fix, but to stay. And staying, I realized, had become the most sacred act between us. We didn't speak again about the messages. Not right away. We didn't need to. There was no urgency in facing the past when the present was finally being lived, not tiptoed through. What mattered more was what we had named in the dark, our fears, our truths, and that fragile but unshakable decision to grow closer, even if it meant walking through uncomfortable spaces. Later that day, over coffee and soft music, I opened up more. I told Adam how long I'd carried that quiet fear of not being enough. How that one failed love had sewn invisible threads through my sense of worth. And how, for years, I had mistaken safety for silence. He listened. Not just the way a partner listens, but the way a home listens, without judgment, with warmth, with room to breathe. "I'm not afraid of your scars," he said gently. "I'm afraid of a version of us where you think you have to hide them." That line undid me. It didn't need a response. Later, we called my sister. The conversation wasn't long, but it was enough. She blocked the number. I did too. We drew a boundary, not out of bitterness, but clarity. The past no longer had room to interrupt what we were choosing now. That night, as we lay side by side, Adam reached for my hand. "You don't have to be new," he whispered. "You just have to be real." And I was. For the first time in a long time, I let myself be soft, not because I was breaking, but because I was finally whole enough to open. We didn't make love that night out of obligation or to mark some turning point. We simply lay there, hearts beating close, minds quiet. Sometimes intimacy isn't a climax. Sometimes it's just choosing to stay, even when the room is full of everything you were once afraid to say out loud. The bedroom no longer felt like a place of performance. It felt like a place of truth. And when I closed my eyes, I knew that whatever we explored next, whether in desire or emotion, it would be rooted in something real. Something seen. Not everything is fixed in a single night. But sometimes, one honest moment is enough to change the shape of the future. And in that soft, golden hush, I knew, love doesn't ask you to become someone new. It just asks you to finally come home to yourself.